Welcome to LFC Talk at Hotel Tia. Well, this time we are a little bit remotely from Hotel Tia, but we've just got back from Champions League final in Paris, and with me I've got two people who I bumped into before and after the match, by chance really, but we have some experiences we would like to share with you because we can't recognize the picture that's been put out there about what actually happened in Paris, and we need to talk about it. So with me, I've got Bruce Grobbelaar. How are you doing, Bruce?
Very well, yeah. Got back safely, that's all we can say.
Yeah, and that's all we can say because it didn't look very good. We have to say that we got right in the middle of the trouble. And with us, we also have you, Janne, Hamre, Karsen. How are you doing?
Doing good now.
Yeah.
It was really scary, so.
Yeah. Janne is Bruce's wife. Let's go back to the happy start, guys. We got to Paris. I read things about we would get fined if we were wearing Liverpool shirts in famous places. So I decided to wear a red and white dress instead and go sort of sneakingly out there to the Arc de Triomphe and show my kids a little bit of Paris before it all kicked in. Lots and lots and lots of Real Madrid fans walked openly with their shirts everywhere. We didn't see many reds. I don't know if they'd had the same message. Do you know? Did they have the message that they would
No,
get
we
fined?
didn't hear any message of that. We got to the hotel probably about 9:30, and we proceeded to check in, put our, stuff in the room, and then went downstairs. There was a bar next door with all the fans, so we went and enjoyed them. They were all in their uniforms. There was a couple of Real Madrid, but they just walked past, and that
All peaceful
all
between
peaceful.
the fans.
Everything was peaceful. Everything that happened that night, and subsequently early in the next day, had nothing to say bad about us being in Paris.
No, as football fans.
Yes, we met up. My wife Janne and myself. We met up with friends of mine from Zimbabwe. That his wife and his son. We went to a lovely, beautiful, what do you call it? Little brasserie. What was it?
Le Grand Colbert.
Yeah, Le Grand Grobbelaar.
Très bien.
Beautiful lunch. Beautiful lunch.
And the sun was shining.
And the sun was shining. And then all of a sudden,
And that buzzing feeling.
Real Madrid people just came storming through the door, sitting down in the brasserie. When I got up to leave, one of them recognized me and the goalkeeper shook hands with all the Real Madrid people. It was fantastic.
I was singing to you.
Singing,
Yeah.
and then we went to the fan zone.
And what a sight that was. 40,000
Unbelievable,
people.
40,000 people in this
together.
place.
In a very strange place though, because it was so far from the ground. And
Well, why did they
far
put
from
us
the
there,
center.
where Real Madrid's fan zone was right next to the stadium?
Yeah.
There's a question that you got to ask yourself.
It's a bit of a logistic one to get there and get back again.
Correct.
In time.
When Jamie Webster started his "You'll Never Walk Alone," that's when we walked out.
And that's but just before then we just walked into each other by chance.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. I was there with my two kids.
Yes.
It was buzzing, people
Yeah.
were happy, they were singing, they were laughing. There was absolutely no trouble.
And when we went down to the metro, and we got on the metro, Real Madrid fans and Liverpool fans together having a sing-off on the metro.
Oh, we had a song battle.
Oh, that is
I
so
filmed that
amazing.
on my Instagram.
So-
Go to Liverpool Heart
Yeah.
on the Instagram and see that song battle. It was just unbelievably fun. And we won the battle, didn't we?
Well, of course, because there were probably more of us. But it was, ended
Just
off friendly.
feel good. So feel good.
When we got out of the station, they seemed to push the Real Madrids in one way and us the other way. Can I say, I've been through Heysel, I've been through Hillsborough. What happened in those two places, it is a miracle it never happened in Paris. Because I was there walking when you were funneled into a gap the size of two people. And that was done by the French police with their vehicles on the walkway, blocking the road so you only go through that little tunnel. Then when we get to the concourse, after going through security, your first security check, you get onto the concourse, everything's okay. Walk around the other side, gate Y, gate A, gate B, gate C. Gate Y had 12 turnstiles there that you could see, 2 working. Gate A, 6 or 7 turnstiles, 1 working. Gate
no
B,
one was working when I got
Gate
there.
B,
They're all closed.
all closed.
Yeah.
Now,
And that was your gate.
that was our gate.
That's all right, yeah.
When you ask yourself, when you ask the question, when you go to a stadium that is going to have 60,000+ people,
80,000, isn't it?
well, 80,000, 60,000 plus, and you only have people working on the gate, 2 out of 12 turnstiles on one, 1 out of 6 on the other, none on the other. And when it comes out, when you're supposed to go through and someone opens the gate, of course you're going to get a search. But the police, when I was there, tried to stop us going in. They didn't check any tickets. No, they didn't check any tickets.
They had little pens. They just
They
marked.
had the
They
pens
didn't
and they
scan
marked. And everyone
anything.
marked.
They
Yes, you can
didn't
go
even
in.
check for
They
us.
didn't
And
check
we have
us.
to say-
And we pushed past the riot police.
But we have to say we were there 3 hours.
We were 3 hours
6,
before the game.
6:15 we were
So
at the game.
with them saying it was latecomers, no. Everybody was there 3 hours. So you UEFA people and the organizers of this, you knew that it was going to come to Paris. You now have got another World Cup rugby in that same stadium. Please, please get your police vehicles off the street and let the people walk properly. Please have people at the turnstiles and check everybody's tickets through. 12 people at the 12, and the dog is even giving you some stick here.
Yeah, she's mad too, actually.
So after the game, how dare the French police block us from going down some stairs right next to the hotel and herding us through an area where they know that the gangs are there.
Yeah, but before we go there, which was the really scary bit that made so many of my fellow Liverpool fans say, we will never, ever, ever set foot in Paris again. We will never, ever, ever go to a match in France again.
I've said that to you, Jane.
Yeah.
I will never
felt
come
more
back to
unsafe.
Paris.
No, and we will explain why in a minute. But before we go there, I stood in front of gate A with my son. He's 16. And it was so quiet. And I couldn't believe it because we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and the queues were massive. We're talking this wide, fat line of probably like 200 meters of people. And eventually we were past the original kickoff time, and not everyone had Wi-Fi and reception there. So we were panicking. We were literally panicking. I mean, we paid the shirt and a bit more to get there. And we were so privileged and lucky to get tickets because it was so hard. And I hardly know anyone who were lucky in the draw. But we had 2 out of 3. Luckily, my daughter, who was going to have her very first Champions League final experience, couldn't get a ticket. And now I'm thinking it was destiny, because if my 13-year-old daughter had been to this match and gone through what we sitting here
She would
went
never come
through
to another football game.
after the game, no, she would never
would
ever
never.
come. But the problem was standing there thinking we're missing the game.
Yeah.
Eventually I got a text from some friends saying it's been postponed 30 minutes. And then some guy said, because nothing was moving, and I couldn't believe how quiet and peacefully people were waiting at gate A with absolutely no movement. They'd shut the gates. And then some guy shouted to us from the side, come to gate C, come to gate C. It's open. A couple of places is open. So we go over to gate C. Nothing's happening in gate A. Supposed to start the kickoff of the game. We go to gate C and eventually we get through. And they just sort of mark your ticket with a little pen. They're not even checking it. They're not scanning it. And this guy protecting me and my son going, be careful, because all these local lads were standing by the gate.
And they
ready
were
to
pickpocketing.
ready to rip your ticket out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your hand in front of the police.
Yeah,
when
that happened.
when we
Yeah.
went up to the when we went up to the concourse, got onto the one level, Janne went to the bathroom. I was there, and I must have somehow dropped my tickets
Oh dear.
on there. The next minute, I saw my tickets in someone else's hands, and I walked up to him and I grabbed
Envelope, yeah.
the note. I looked him in the eye and I said, "Excuse me, is that your name on it?" "That's my name." "So go."
That was close.
So
But
we
even
nearly
inside, even
even inside.
there was nobody there to help you to see where
Usher.
you're going to see.
Nobody
sit,
ushering you
nothing.
where you see.
No, no,
There was
You-
nobody
you,
there.
You
Like a
read your
ghost
own.
town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Where were the stewards? But then another thing that really provokes me was how could 90-year-old people, 90-year-old fans and children, how could they get tear gassed while they were standing there patiently and obviously peacefully but upset, thinking they're missing the game? How could they then start tear gassing them?
And people in wheelchairs that couldn't get away from it.
No.
It was
Yeah.
horrible. Horrible.
One thing I've learned about Paris and about the area that the stadium is in, Saint Denis, is about your two gangs that are run the streets. And don't deny it because you know it as well. Why did the police push us down that run where they knew the gangs were there? Why didn't they not open the other gate where we could have gone down peacefully? So there's something underlining this factor that they did it because they wanted something to come out of it on the other end and portray Liverpool as bad people and fans. Well, let me put something to you. Have a look at the reception the next day back in Liverpool when the team came back.
After losing.
After losing. And how many people were there? 500,000, and there was not one incident. So don't give us this, that we are the bad people here in the football world. Look at your own first and then make the decision.
Exactly. And that's what you're saying there about how the police forced us to just go one single way out of the stadium is what's making me the most mad, because they sent us right into the mobs. We came out, and again, we met each other by chance.
Yes.
I think we were just meant to look after each other that day, and I'm so grateful I had a big lad like Bruce with me and my son and with you, Janne, because they were attacking the vulnerable.
Yeah.
We came out and we wanted to go down under the flyway. We were lucky to stay in the hotel, Novotel, only 500 meters from the ground. So we obviously wanted to go the same way back as we came in. The police refused us to go down that way. Only some guys with press passes managed to escape the trouble and go the safe way around. The police sent us right into the gangs. And what happened when we went over this bridge kind of thing, we couldn't escape. There were fences on both sides, and then we were stormed from the back. By all these mobs and
mugging people in the front.
And then we came to a crossway. While we were stormed in the back, in front of us, there was like a crossway where people were running after people going, hey, go back. They were robbed. Their watches were robbed, their wallets, their passports.
People got stabbed.
And sliced.
And slashed.
And beaten. We have friends of friends who are now in surgery with knees that will never be the same again. We have friends who have got really
lacerated
horrendous face.
Like they're happy to be alive. Actually.
I know our friend Ian had to jump over this wall to escape the
And
horrendous.
that's when it happened.
Horrendous thing, and got completely horrendously injured in his face and on his neck to try to get away from trouble. And to see my son, this was his third Champions League final. How blessed are we? 3 finals in 5 years. Kiev, no problem. It was just a beautiful day. Madrid, gorgeous day.
No problem.
No problem, nothing. And this, I've never been so scared in my life. And if it wasn't for you, Bruce, taking us to the side, what kicked in there? Because you were like this bear. You were like this protective bear, weren't you?
When you have a look at what's going behind you and what has happened in the front, you've got to get to a safer place. Now, when we went past the gangs, we lined on 2 sides. And when they were finished, that's when I pushed you to the side, because then the gangs couldn't get over the wall. But it was you dragging us away.
Yeah. How did you feel, Janne?
I was just terrified, and of course for the 16-year-old boy, so I just took his hand and I said, "You just run, go to the right and run for it," because you can see that they started with the tear gas and you can feel it, and we just hit the door. They let us
when
in.
When they tear gassed everybody outside the hotel. That's when we just got in the foyer, but that was so powerful that even in the foyer, the tear gas was coming in.
100 meters in, guys, from the Novotel reception. It's a 4-star hotel where so many of the media all over the world, ex-footballers, they all stay there. And it was so
Journalists
heavy.
from both sides.
Yes, and fans from both sides. And the tear gas was so heavy, guys, that it just floated in 100 meters into the reception area where we were standing. And it attacked our eyes, our throats. It was that bad, and it must have given you some really bad flashbacks, Bruce. How did you feel when you got into the reception?
Well, that wasn't the end of it, because I did a miscalculation on our return back to our hotel. And we went down into the middle of Saint Denis, going the wrong way.
The police sent us that way.
Because the police sent us that way. They said, you get a cab down that way. We walked for an hour and a half, and we saw a little mugging on the way. Janne said, we are not safe here. And we went to got to a little bus station where there were some people there. Luckily, there were people. Because when we were looking at the bus times, we noticed 2 cars stopped either side of the busway, and these gangs of youth jumped out. Yes, gangs of youth on both cars, wearing black and white, the one gang's uniform, anything black or white. 2 came straight to where we were standing, 2 stood on either side, and 2 went behind us, behind the bus station. We moved away from the people looking at the board. We went into the middle section where the trams were, and there was some people there. And I noticed the 2 of the youngsters, they were eyeing up who they're going to rob next. Fortunately for us, there was a taxi that came down the way. It stopped. Someone asked somewhere. He said no. I stopped and I said, Gardener. He went no. He carried on. The next taxi, the same person asked something. He said no, and we stopped. And I said, Gardener, s'il vous plaît. And he said, oh, no. And it was Jane who actually asked and begged the driver to let us in, which he did. It didn't end there, because a big African fella said, oh, I heard you come to Gardener in French. And the driver said no, and I said no, get him in the car. We could let him in the car, and the 3 of us got away from that area where these gangs were going to rob the next person at that bus stop.
And it is. I didn't even realize, I'm so gullible, I guess. I didn't realize that Saint Denis is one of the roughest neighborhoods in Europe. I mean, it's the roughest neighborhood in France.
It was
Can you imagine? Not even the police go down there.
Yeah. It's kind of, we were walking, and while we're walking, I was removing my watch. I was taking my credit card out of my phone in case they got my phone, just so I could have something to get home. I just never been so scared.
And you know what happened? We get back to, fortunately, we went down the road. Our hotel was on before we got to Gardener Station. Otherwise, we have to get out there and walk back. Janne saw our hotel when we stopped at the lights and said, can we get out here now? I just paid him the money and went into our hotel. Fortunate for us, the fantastic Nigerian night staff, Dada was on, and 3 fantastic Liverpool fans were still up having a drink. And they said to us, would you like a drink? And you know what? We had to, because we had to calm our nerves.
Everybody was shaking.
Everybody was shaking.
To talk about it with somebody,
And this was another thing, because I felt like cattle coming into the stadium. I felt like cattle coming out of the stadium. And then I felt like a cattle calf, actually, coming into the hotel, because we were not even allowed alcohol after that horrendous feeling. They were not allowed to serve us alcohol at 11 o'clock at night.
And then they
But
stopped.
that's
And then they
6 o'clock,
stopped.
as if we are like crazy
Then they
people.
stopped any drink after a certain time after we got back in.
Yeah, we didn't get water and
We didn't get
coffee,
water
but-
or Coca-Cola.
No,
That's something for you to think about.
I know, because this is actually a feel-good story in everything. Because I had invited you to the hotel because we were, we thought maybe we could celebrate after the game, which wasn't the case. But now all of a sudden we had to debrief and sort of catch ourselves after a horrendous experience. And then they were shutting the bar. So I was like saying to the bartender, and they were like literally shutting just for any drinks, and alcohol was out of the question. And I said to the bar manager, because I'd come last night and we arrived really late because our flights were delayed on Friday night. So then again, they had to shut the bar at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. I mean, come on, it's a Champions League final weekend. And because we're football fans, they refused to serve a drink after 11. So I came, and Robbie Fowler and his brothers and his son, and they were all in the foyer having a drink, and I wanted to join them, and I couldn't get a drink.
I guarantee you, in that hotel, when the Rugby World Cup is there in Paris and Saint Denis, and your first game, you will be serving alcohol to the masses of rugby fans, won't you? I guarantee you'll be open.
Yeah, you
but
better be.
here for football fans, you don't do it. Come
know,
on,
I felt
we're
like-
human beings. We're the same type of people, and we love our sport.
But to be fair to this bar manager, though, he felt sorry for me because Robbie and the lads had bunkered up with beers, and I can't have beer, unfortunately. So he said, "I'm so sorry, we're closed." I said, "I've been traveling the whole day, and it's been such a stressful day, and can't I just have one glass of wine?" And he goes, "So sorry, we're closed." And then he regretted, and he goes, "Do you want white wine?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." And he goes, "Here, this is on the house," which was lovely. The following day, when we're so traumatized and we got tear gas down our throats.
I have to say one thing, because you did actually arm wrestle for Coca-Cola for me.
I
Yes,
know.
you did.
This is the story. This is the story. So the bar is closed, and I'm like, "We need drinks. We've gone through a horrible time." And I said to the huge black lad, I said to him,
I'll arm wrestle you.
"I arm wrestle you. If I win,
You're going to give us some
you're going to
drink.
serve alcohol to the whole fire." And he goes, "Okay," because he was absolutely sure if we would win. He was a big lad, and he was half my age. And then we go, and it's like, what was it called? Over the Top. Remember that
Yes.
movie? Over the Top.
Yeah.
So I am arm wrestling, and he did not see this coming.
No.
And this is my hidden talent, guys.
It's a Norwegian Viking. That's all.
I've got a Viking arms when it comes to arm wrestling. I've been arm wrestling, boys, my whole life, and I always win. It's hilarious. So I don't know if it's the technique or if it's the old skier in me, but this poor lad loses. And I did the over the top thing with the fingers before I killed him off. And the whole staff of the hotel were circling around when he lost. And he got so embarrassed. And I'm like, "Come on, the bar needs to open for everyone. We need it, believe me. We've gone through hell.
We only got one Coke.
We got Cokes and waters."
Yeah.
And we needed them, because then he shut the bar, and in comes all of Robbie Fowler's brothers and his son, and they were all tear gassed.
Tear gassed, yeah.
And can you imagine when you're tear gassed, your throat is so sore.
But there
and
were
you
little
need to
boys
drink.
in that foyer.
Yes.
And I remember the dad said to his son, it's like, "Don't rub your eyes. Do not
Don't-
rub
do
your
not
eyes."
rub your eyes
right?
if you
And
get
it's just like, and this kid was probably 8, something
Yeah.
like that. It was just horrible.
Why was
Horrible.
an 8-year-old having to go through
No,
a
no,
trauma
no.
like that?
Yeah.
He will never, ever get over it. It's they have so much to answer for.
So when you
So
see this podcast, wherever you are in the world, because it's going to go around the world viral, they'll know about the authorities in Paris. That's all we're going to say, and how wrong they were with this whole stadium episode, and how incompetent they were at the turnstiles getting into the stadium, and policing a peaceful walk to the stadium, and then trying to tear gas vulnerable people. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
That's all we've got to say. This was Bruce Grobbelaar, Janne Hamre Karsen, also called Janne Grobbelaar, very soon, and me, Ragnhild and Ansnes. And guys, speak up. Do answer all the questionnaires that's been put out there by Liverpool Football Club, by the police, Merseyside police. Anywhere you can send in evidence, photos, films, tell your story, get the truth out there. Enough is enough. We're not taking any more rubbish about a Liverpool Football Club fans being troublemakers, because this was a horrendous experience for us all. Shame on you.